I was really used to that steady income. And then all of a sudden, I now have this money, no money, money, no money, that roller coaster.
But nothing prepares you for, oh my gosh, I quit my job. There is no more paycheck coming. So you'll have an amazing month and say, this is amazing. I can do this forever. Go buy the Porsche. So then you go buy the Porsche. And then you're starving for 2 months because there's nothing else behind that. Then you got to sell that Porsche at a loss and in order to make ends meet. That kind of stuff.
Welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur channel. Please subscribe so every week you get to hear from amazing guests that share their stories and inspiration and motivation to help them in their journey, and hopefully it will inspire you as well in your transition from employee to entrepreneur. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Transitioning from Employee to Entrepreneur. I am Anita Sarda, and I am so thrilled to have this next guest on. Donny Mangos is an incredible entrepreneur, and he's all about the money. He's all about wealth, and isn't that what we all need? But sometimes we get fearful of it. Sometimes we don't really even understand how, when the transition from the employee and you're really used to that steady income, and how to really leverage it in the entrepreneurial space. I know that was something that I was challenged with. I was really used to that steady income. And then all of a sudden, I now have this money, no money, money, no money, that roller coaster. We've talked about it on other episodes and in my tips. And so I was really excited to have Donny in it, not just to share his own journey of the transition and why he's done it, but also to provide you guys some tips and things to really ask your professional, your advisors, your people around money, and things that you should just be aware of. Donny, thank you so much for being on this episode with us and talking to our audience and those people in this transition. Before we get into some nitty-gritty questions, I'd just love for you to share a bit more about you and your background and a little bit how you became an entrepreneur.
Hi, Anita. Thank you for having me on, of course. And yes, happy to share. So I'm Donny Mangos. I'm a wealth strategist. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I was once an employee a long time ago, probably three lives ago at this point. And I know exactly what your audience feels like when they're facing down that tunnel. They have no idea where it's going to end, what it's going to look like. Is it bright? Is it dark? So I get all those issues and I felt them, I lived through them, and I made it all the way through. So it's a very different world. I'm happy to share how I got there and all that. My experience was I was a guy in a cubicle, like a high cubicle wall, 90s, 2000s kind of office environment, high rise building, completely anonymous with those name tag, whatever, swipe cards, things that you'd walk into the doors with. And oh man, that was like that uniform was like a battle every morning having to put that thing on. I was struggling in that lifestyle. I know it's calm and I know that it's pretty predictable. Your salary every couple weeks and stuff, and I get that. But it's just it was never the life for me. I just couldn't do it. And so I just in my life I learned to I'm just gonna do what I'm really passionate about. And unfortunately, it means I'm going on my own. I'm gonna figure this out on my own, and there's no fallback. But I'm gonna do what I'm really passionate about, and I'm just gonna trust that because I'm passionate about it, I'm gonna care a lot about it. I'll do well at it. I want to get better at it, and the rewards will follow naturally. I know that's like a leap of faith, and it sounds like a crock of BS. It isn't. I really felt like at the time I was unhappy doing what I was doing. I was unhappy in those walls. I was unhappy working for somebody else. And I just wanted to chase happiness. And yeah, it led me down a path to which is now wealth strategist.
That's amazing. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur. And we need people to be employees, but those that really decide and choose that the entrepreneurial path is really the path that they want to go down. You're right. It's that notion and feeling, I just can't do this, job anymore. I can't go down that. And it feels like handcuffs. And congratulations to you on a very successful journey that you've been on for a long time. And also as a wealth strategist, this is the reason why we're having this conversation, because in my experience and with my clients and the people that I train, one of the biggest things that surprises people is that change from the steady paycheck. So, why don't you share with us a little bit more? What's that financial gut punch? What is the thing that tends to surprise people most who are used to that steady paychecks? Is it taxes,
Yeah,
cash
you
flow, lifestyle?
so yeah,
What?
all that stuff is a gut punch because you're just not you haven't planned for it. When you go from being fed to instead of someone's giving you the fish, now you got to go and catch fish, figure out how to do all that. It's a very different perspective, different appreciation for sure for what you're bringing in also. But nothing prepares you for, oh my gosh, I quit my job. There is no more paycheck coming. Hopefully, if you're making this change from employee to self-employed or entrepreneur world, you figured out some buffer to give yourself some time to at least experience failure, to at least experience or give yourself the permission to try
In your
things.
experience, sorry to interrupt you, but what would be a buffer? Like in your experience,
Oh,
what would
okay.
somebody in our audience feel is the right buffer?
Look, imagine if you were, imagine, I'm just guessing here. Say you were a financial advisor's assistant, and you're going to go and you're going to become your own, I know, a financial advisor, for example. You probably have some connections through the industry. You probably have a small client base ready to start. You might need less of a buffer. But if this person who's an administrator for a financial advisor decides that what they want to do now is go and sell kitchen islands, you need months and months, probably even like up to a year's worth of sustenance. How am I going to pay for my mortgage, my rent, groceries, all that stuff? How am I going to make sure if I'm committed to that because I love kitchen counters that much, I'm going to go into that. I need to give myself the grace, the freedom to figure this stuff out. So if I like, depending how foreign it is, what I would do, I would either stretch it out because it's so new to me and I'm going to give myself time. And AI is contributing to some of this stuff as well. Or if I really know it really well, I'm just changing how I fit in here. You probably don't need more than 3 months worth.
Okay.
These are all general. Please, nobody sue me for making
No,
suggestions.
no, just in your experience. I tend to say around the 6 month mark. So,
Sure. That
but
sounds
it's a
perfect.
fair
Yeah.
way of saying that.
Yeah. So I think it's important that you do that because again, you're going to screw up. You're going to start off and it's going to be slow and
Yes.
it's going to be a lot slower than you imagined. And if you don't plan for this in the beginning, you're going to end up going back to what you were doing before and you're going to feel like a failure. And that's not what happened. You just figured out ways that didn't work
Yeah.
and you got through, yeah, and you got through the parts, the hard parts. And just when you're about to get to the good stage, you caved. And so just give yourself that kind of runway.
So how do entrepreneurs think differently about income? If I, again, I want to be really clear on the whole, as an employee, we're really used to the direct deposits. The money comes into our bank account. Most people don't
Yep.
get a check every 2 weeks. It just goes suddenly open your bank account and you've got money on Friday. How do you think differently? How do you plan for that? How do you manage those
So
finances?
So a lot of times, and I'm sure you experience this, when someone becomes an entrepreneur, so when someone leaves their job and says, I'm going to do it on my own, they're not quite sure yet that they're going to be in this long term. Like they're not really planning for, or they're not ready to commit to building a big business. So when you straddle that world, when you're like half in, half out, what we end up seeing on the wealth side is you just operate like an employee and you're governed by, especially where I am in Canada, heavy taxation that goes to the individual. So if you're doing it that way, you're going to have a hard time. You're pulling in a lot of money. It's going to go right in your bank account when you make sales, and you're probably going to think there's more behind that on the way, and you're going to start spending stuff. And your habits are going to start changing based on the ebbs and flows of your business. So you'll have an amazing month and say, this is amazing. I can do this forever. Go buy the Porsche. So then you go buy the Porsche. And then you're starving for 2 months because there's nothing else behind that. Then you got to sell that Porsche at a loss and in order to make ends meet. That kind of stuff, when you're operating in an environment where you're still doing it the same way, you have your personal savings account, money's going in there, it looks like a big number, so you think you have lots of space, you spend, off you go, you realize you're screwed because you shouldn't have done that. What eventually you want to get to is the point where you have a structure that is more formalized, a corporation. So you create a business that it in itself is something. It's not you anymore, it's now a business and you can start funneling money into that directly. And at least when you have this, you pay less taxes overall. You can create your own little salary to replace what you did before. You can gradually drip money into your own personal self. And so you treat it like a salary if you wanted to. So if you want a consistency, you could build in smoothing out income. If you go to this point where you're confident in your business, you can create a corporation out of this, and then you can start giving yourself money through a regular paycheck. You could achieve this on your own. Yeah.
So you talked about habits. Let's switch back to that a little bit. What are employee money habits that are dangerous for an entrepreneur besides
Well,
just go buy a Porsche and then not? But let's dive a little bit more into this whole
okay.
habit thing.
Habits on employees. So you always think there's more money coming if you're an employee. And so you're spending your habits. You're always like, no big deal. There's another one. What I'll spend today because I know that next week there'll be a paycheck and I'll just basically spend that future paycheck today, knowing that I'll get money there. And then you keep doing this over and over again. Fortunately and unfortunately, you do have that ability. And so you can go in the negative regularly because you know you're going to replenish it. That's an employee shit or a habit. You're not giving any thought to what 6 months looks like, what 12 months looks like, what 12 years looks like. Constantly thinking, no big deal. I'll get it sorted next week because I know I'm getting more money
Mhm.
again. So the predictability of income is what it's a false predictability of income. Like I should say that. I think that a lot of people should realize that the employee route is not the safe route. We do need employees, 100%. So like we have the money to, but it's not the safe route. Read the news and see the layoffs and stuff. But employees tend to think there's confidence in having a job next week, and so I'll spend this week.
Yes, that
Yeah,
paycheck is going to be there, and I can over leverage. I can go to the bank. I can borrow money. I can do these kinds of things. Entrepreneurs do not get that privilege
yeah.
of thinking that way. And it's a really hard habit to break if you've been an employee for a very long time. That is, you're right. It's a great. So then what does wealth protection mean for entrepreneurs? I'm not an employee that has a regular salary. I'm now an entrepreneur that I have a good month, I have a bad month. I might have 4 bad months in a row where I'm in the winter
It
season and
happens.
not in
Yeah.
the spring harvest season. How do I make sure I don't lose my house? Besides just never spending any money, because that's also not fun. You don't
Oh
ever
no.
want to get
Yeah.
to the point where you're like, I can't, I was on listening to this podcast and I pretty much can't spend any money now.
Have you found, because I have found this, and I want your experience on this. People generally have, what is the term for it? Financial thermostat.
Yes.
Like you're at this number, you're at this lifestyle. So let's say you're a kind of person that goes on vacation 4 times a year and you drive a nice car, maybe a new car every 3 years, nice house, all that kind of stuff. You live in the city, all these things.
No.
That's your thermostat. That's where you're set. And somehow, some way, like you continue the habits that continue that output, and you keep doing this, even if you change into employee, into you're an entrepreneur now, you somehow, for the most part, very generally, it works out where you continue that sort of thermostat. That's where you live. So you got to be mindful of it. You should be monitoring. You should be looking at this. Should be considering where does business come from and things like that. But it's not going to happen on its own. You're going to have to continue to generate business, do the marketing efforts, conversations, things that businesses have to do that you probably weren't doing before. But you'll adapt to that. I think it's once you're aware of what you need to do,
Mm.
and that comes through failure by not doing what you need to do in the first place. You get to the point where you feel this way, and then you start acting just like the person that's earning, just like you were before. And now you have the ability to eclipse that and go even beyond that because now you're aware of what that ethic takes. But I do believe that people reset back to their financial thermostat quite often, like miraculously. And so it didn't really answer exactly the question, but it's similar. I do believe that when you make a change into entrepreneur world, this you're asking about wealth and how do you continue to build that and how do you bring it in, you'll find a way. You will be motivated to do the things that generate the business that you need to be able to live the life that you expect to live for yourself.
So, what are early planning strategies? We've got people from essentially all over the world that watch this podcast, and you and I both happen to live in Canada, where the government rules are different. If you live in the States, the government rules tend to be more favorable to businesses as well, and the
Yeah.
taxation. If you live in the UK or Australia or wherever, every country is a little bit different, but overall, in my experience, the entrepreneurial journey is the same in its basic principles across the board. But for a entrepreneur in the wealth side, what are some of the planning things that people should be doing sooner than later?
At the foundation level, so when you're an entrepreneur and you're running, so I'm going to call you a business owner now. I know that we use entrepreneur on this pod, but I'm going to call you a business owner. And when you're a business owner, you should be acting like a business owner, not an employee. And the employee taxation rules and all that are based on the individual. So if you're operating a business owner, you shouldn't be operating like an individual. And all these places we just talked about, Canada, they all have more favorable taxation rules for businesses. So structuring your business like a business when it makes sense financially to do this, because it comes at a bit of a cost. It's not crazy, but it makes a bit of a cost and a bit of a commitment, in all honesty, to continuing this thing for many years. That gives you a lot of access to a lot more wealth planning strategies. So if you can get your business into a position where you can incorporate that business, now it exists outside of the individual.
Yeah.
Now you're opening up doors to some pretty cool concepts, primarily for tax efficiency and tax planning. So where I live, the highest personal tax rates for context on the individual, if you're making over 250 grand, let's say in Canadian dollars, you're now at the marginal tax bracket of 53.53%. So if I make $300,000, that last 50 grand or so or more, I'm paying 53.53% of that additional income in tax. I actually keep less than what I earned, which is not helpful for productivity. I wouldn't want to work anymore. What is the point? But when you operate a business like that's what you're doing to yourself. If you had the same revenue earned within a corporation, so you set up in a corporation where I live, the first 500 grand of income through corporation is taxed at 12.2%, which is 41% lower in taxes that I'd be paying if I earn that money into a corporation. So that alone creates opportunity for further planning because you're gonna have more money to work with to build wealth with.
Yes.
How's that for, was that cool? Is that clear?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool. And that's the case with like many other countries that
Many,
offer that kind of structure.
yeah. What I found, Nita, it's pretty, that number, like my personal number, unfortunately, that is the highest I've seen, but I live there. There are other places in the world where that number is smaller, though it's always a difference. It's never the same. It's
Correct.
always beneficial to operate within a corporation. So now you've got money in a corporation, you don't have it personally. So one, you have to be mindful of that difference, and you can't just take money from the corporation. Otherwise, it's like you earn the money directly to yourself, and that doesn't help you very much for tax planning. So now you solve a tax problem for when you're building wealth, but you've creating an access problem. Like how do you get money from the corporation so you can use and do you can go on those 4 vacays a year.
Right.
Yeah, but those are good problems to have, and there are solutions to that depending on where you are in the world that will help you figure out like efficiencies and some really wise, cool things you can build now that you saved a lot of money on taxes.
Okay,
There's
great.
more to start with.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit, and then we're going to come back to this
Okay.
concept of money in your corporation. So many of the people that are watching this are in those early years of transition from employee to entrepreneur. They
Right.
are solidifying what their entrepreneurial venture business owner should be. They're
Right.
learning the skills and the tips. And so they might say, Donnie, I'm not even incorporating. Oh my God, do I need to do that immediately? Are you telling me that I'm going to lose all this money and I shouldn't do it? Let's talk a little bit about when that's the right time to do it. But more importantly, I'd love for you to just give some of our audience what are some of the questions they should ask an accountant or a professional or a lawyer? Like, what are the things that you should ask to know when is the right time for you to do that so that you are benefiting the most? Because there is a tipping point where it's
There
really
is.
not beneficial to have a corporation right away.
100%. Yeah. If vanilla advice, first of all, it's like opinions, right? And opinions are like, you know what? Everyone's got one. It's not, if you ask a professional and you turn around and ask another one over there, they're going to give you different answers on what that number is going to be like. And I know that everybody wants, like, gun to your head, what is the answer? When do I do this? And I want to give you an answer. There is no answer beyond it does depend. Like, what do you need to survive? If you need every dollar that your business is bringing in to survive, so you personally need to spend all that money because you've got kids in daycare, you got a mortgage and all that kind of whatever the costs are. If you're pulling in everything you need to pull in and all you can do is barely scrape by, then you should absolutely not be considering. You're not in wealth building mode. You're in getting by mode, and they're very different. They're both okay. You need to get through getting by mode to get to wealth mode, and that's what you should honestly expect when you make that first trade from employee to entrepreneur.
Right.
So just prepare to panic and know that all of us have been through this. It
Yeah.
is uncomfortable, and you do come out stronger for this. So
Right.
just understand that. That's my caveat. However, your number is different than my number. What
Yes.
you need to survive monthly, annually is very different than what I need to survive
Yeah.
monthly and annually. So I need to be able to not use every dollar that I'm pulling out. If I can, to try and get a number, if I could figure out a way to not use 50 grand, 75 grand of Canadian dollars annually from my business, if I can not touch that and I don't need it, like it's not going to improve my lifestyle enough to justify pulling it out and paying all the tax on it, then I would say you should really be focusing on incorporating your business and doing that next phase. Like now your business is doing enough, you're providing for yourself, you got what you need, and you still have money left over in the business. Now is when you can start transitioning over to like wealth building mode, not business building mode.
And just to be like caveat for anybody listening, make sure you speak to an accountant around what are the taxes that need to get paid, what are personal taxes, corporate taxes. If you live in a country that requires you to charge HST and send it back in, these are all different buckets.
Yeah,
So make sure
totally.
that your income, money that comes into your business, whether you're incorporated or not, you're accounting for all these before you're even looking at some of the wealth building numbers that Donnie is talking about. Make sure that you're really understanding it and asking those right
Yeah.
questions and creating good habits around money and income.
And admittedly, like a lot of your audience is someone starting out and making that change. And again, admittedly, I'm not the right person to speak to that person today. But if you think about this and realize this is what you're aspiring to be, like what I'm talking about, then at least you know what direction you need to go in to get there. And when I look at, I have this talk all the time, like there's really two stages. It's building your business so that you can have a sustainable, repeatable business model where you can generate revenue that'll fund your life. That is your only focus in the beginning. Just go and crush it doing that. Get better and stronger at that. Create raving fans, all that. And then after that, now you can talk about how am I gonna use this business to fund the rest of my life and beyond? Create a legacy, do all those things. Your business can do that once you solve that big first problem.
Right.
Just
And
know
this
that you're not doing this, you're not on this treadmill forever. You're not on the rat race forever. So whatever you're building right now, you're not building your own coffin and doing this. What you're doing is creating a business that's going to create volume and money and fun for you so you can go and use this money to go do some amazing things and have your money work for you. It's almost like an employee. You're going to have employees working for you. And that's more where I reside.
And one of the reasons I was excited to have you on here is because I want to help people see the vision of where this can go. If you've decided to go down this path, then there's so much more that's available for you to really create incredible wealth and lifestyle and things. When I was early in my journey, to the point I hustled, I was just making money to make ends meet and trying to get my expenses paid. And I wasn't really thinking about how to create wealth. But what I always like to teach in my programs are I want to teach you the things I wish someone had already taught me. Like it's not like I could have applied all
You're
of those
here.
things, but I
Yeah.
didn't even know that I what I didn't know. So it bothered me to think that, man, why didn't someone just tell me this? If no one even told me that it was available. And my analogy is I like teaching you what we would have learned in school from K to 8. But like we still, even when you're in grade 7, 8, you're talked about what high school is going to look like, or maybe what college and university is going to look like. And you're excited about those next phases. And that's really what I wanted to do with this is that, okay, maybe many of you aren't really quite at the phase of what Donnie's about to talk about. And we're going to go now into like wealth and corporation. But I wanted to set the stage to say, if you don't even know what you need to do now, you can't be excited about, oh, that's really where we're going. I see that yellow brick road. This is where we're going. So now I'm excited to talk to you and have you share a little bit about, okay, great. I've been stable for, let's say, a year. I've got some pretty solid income coming in. I've got regular clients. I've got some raving fans. I get a lot of referrals. My income is beyond just my mortgage and my utilities and maybe a little bit of fun disposable income. I now actually have a proper egg nest that's building. Now what? Now talk to me, Donnie. What are some of my wealth building strategies that I should be aware of? What can I do instead of just letting it sit in my savings account?
Okay. I need to know is this. I wrote a book where I talk about, I think what is where you're going with this, which is, it's
Yeah.
called Get Wealth Up. It's here somewhere. Hang on. Let me get a visual for you so you can see what it looks like.
Yeah,
That's
we'll have it in the notes as
okay.
well. You
So
guys
that's the book.
can.
And in that, I talk about a strategy that is, like, for me, it's one of the fundamental strategies I use when I'm working with people. And I call it building this thing called a money mansion, which is not a real thing. But in one of my lives, when I was heavy into real estate, my mind always thought real estate. My mind thought real estate because what I wanted was a growth and income asset. I wanted an asset that's going to go up in value, but I also wanted it to give me cash flow all the time. And what we've recognized in my jurisdiction where I live is sometimes the rules change on you as a business owner. And when you're in a business and rules change on you, you have to adapt. I had to adapt because the rules worked against us as property owners in my district. But I loved the fact that I still wanted the how do I create an asset that only ever goes up in value, reliable, cash flow comes all the time, and it'll pay for my when I eventually want to retire. I would never retire, but whenever I want to start taking money passively, I had planned on doing that through real estate. So, anyways, long story short, I just worked on this book, which talks about a model that I practice. Where I build a money mansion because a money mansion to me operates just like real estate, only there's no real estate involved. It's all contract-based stuff where you use, in a corporation, you could do this as well. You use corporate money, which you have a lot more of because you're paying less taxes on, to end up buying this fake kind of house thing that just goes up in value and you keep building it, keep funding it. And eventually, just like tenants pay rent, this thing is going to keep paying me, or it does pay me and it keeps paying me like cash flow. When I access money through this, it really creates like a pension for me. The goal, I'll just TLDR part to this book. At the very end, I talk about how the goal of this whole thing is to create this golden goose. So Anita, you know how you want like a golden goose is like that one thing where it's this goose, it's gold, and it keeps laying golden eggs. And every day you go back to the goose, and there's another golden egg for you. The goose itself never gets harmed. It just keeps laying eggs, and you just keep using the goose, the eggs to go and do things with, like fund whatever. That's almost like having a big pile of money and living off the interest. It's like this very similar concept, slash the same concept.
Yes.
And this money mansion is talking about how I do that through the use of contracts. There's no actual goose involved, and there is no gold.
Yes.
Just the use of contracts to replicate what that looks like. Give me money every day, every month, the rest of my life, and I use my business to fund it
Yes.
as my business is operating. So was that vague, or was that good enough for?
It is vague, but it's also clear enough to say, by the way, this is completely legal in Canada. It's completely legal in the United States, and it might
Yep.
actually have a different form in other countries, so you can go and find out. But it's based on please share.
The tool. So
Yeah,
the underlying tool is a highly misunderstood product sold by giant corporations called the participating whole life insurance policy.
correct.
Through the structure and use of contracts that insurance companies are willing to offer, you can almost repurpose it to be a wealth generator, wealth preserver, and slash cash flow machine and pension plan. Like, you can design it such that it works that way, despite everything you've read about
Yes.
for the product. So the product itself, I love it because I know it so well. But it's not about the product. It's about wealth to me, Anita, just not about money. I don't care about the spreadsheet number. What I want is what I want when I want it.
Yes.
And if it means that I want to go to Italy in a month, for a month, then that's what wealth, if wealth can unlock that for me, then that's what I need wealth for. So to me, I'm doing all of that and helping clients do all of that so that they can have Italy for a month in a month. They can
Yeah,
buy first
absolutely.
class.
I'm a huge believer in this product. I have multiple policies myself. So, this is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on. Again, those listening, there are many different ways of dealing with your wealth. Our main objective is to help you with your mindset, your way of thinking about money, and no longer having this direct deposit salary that comes into your account. If you are in this journey, you really have to be open. And as I always say, empty your cup to learning about different things. So if you've heard media, or if you've heard your elders, if you've heard people misalign or misunderstand certain very legal and legitimate products that are out there that help you grow wealth, then honestly, bad on you. If you are now going down this venture, open your mind to different things that really create the mindset of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, of people who are super wealthy. This is what the Rockefellers did. This
Yeah.
is what people who are
Yeah.
Walt Disney. There are so many brand name people that we know. And you wonder, how did they get their start? How did they build the empires and create the wealth that stayed generationally into their family?
Totally. And so yeah, they through some variation of this, they access the same tools that we're talking about right now, you and I. They do it
Very
and
similar way.
all above board. It's just the actual process we're talking about, like the actual the method of achieving these kinds of things. If someone's listening to this pod and they're going to start looking at it online and figuring out what's going on, I'm telling you, it is completely misunderstood, and there's a lot of unwarranted animosity. Now, there's probably a bunch of bad apples in the batch of
Yeah.
people who are talking about, who are saying something. Maybe they mean to say what we're saying, just delivering it a bit differently,
Right.
and maybe they're a bit more trashy almost. They are they are the reason why a lot of people in forums online start to get upset about things and complain about it. And what you're not going to hear, honestly, a lot of the clients that I work with who are sitting on lots of like giant sized money mansions,
Yeah.
they're not the ones on forums. They don't care about what's happening on the forums. They're not going to go there and like even read about it or share good news. They're done. They're busy on an island right now. They're hanging out, enjoying the good life. They're
Yeah.
not spending their time like keyboard warriors online right now talking about how this is all blasphemous and this is a disaster. It's not. So just be careful what you read, and thank you for being curious and staying open-minded. You as an entrepreneur, look, your business, your job is going to go and tell others about what you do and why it's amazing and why they should buy from you. Ultimately, that's what you're doing as an entrepreneur. So you better be open to people talking to you in much the same way because you're doing the same thing. If you want to do that in your life, you better invite it in return.
Right.
People, if you're going to try and shape some opinions on your side, you have to be willing to listen to opinions to get better as well. Being an entrepreneur means you got to be curious on both sides. You got to know about the customer and know who's talking to you as you're the customer. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And it's so true. You're going to get haters, naysayers, people saying things about you. You got to hold your backing. You've got to keep your posture to the things and have that self-confidence and worthiness to say, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of wealthy people out there that have the time freedom and have the money freedom to be able to go to Italy for a month or to not experience any form of winter unless they love skiing and want to.
You can winter in Italy too. They have skiing there also.
So to be able to have the different, again, all of this thing is based on the mindset. It's switching your mindset from what we've been taught in school and we've been educated by media, by governments on this is the only way to create wealth. You've got systems in place that your employer might have for you for
Oh, yeah.
pensions. None of those things really are applicable anymore once you're an entrepreneur. Remember, there is no such thing anymore of the pensions. And if you want government support, you've got to create all of that yourself. So maybe you can help us with
Yeah.
running the gamut of let's do this. Let me ask you this question in a sort of two-part way, and I'd like you to think of an answer to this. So, if you needed to give three tips or three strategies from that, I've just lost, let's do it in three phases. I am an employee that's transitioning, so I still have a paycheck. What are three tips that you would guide me to do right now in this, like I've got money coming in steady, but I've also launching. Then the second phase is I'm now an entrepreneur, but I'm not quite incorporated yet because I don't have that steady income. What are my three tips there? And then now I've got a corporation. I actually see this going. I'm probably whatever years in, maybe don't have a huge, I'm not in the 200, $300,000 range, but I'm really getting there and the path is really clear and I can totally see maybe in 6 months, 12 months, a year, I'm going to start hitting those regular numbers. So let's do 2 to 3 tips in each one of these three segments. So we are leaving our audience with wherever they're watching us, something that walks away with this shift in mindset and creating wealth.
We're gonna do this together, just so you know, Anita. This is not on me. This is no
Nope.
homework. Okay. What I would say is you're the employee and you're thinking about, or it's time. You
You
know
know,
that
it's
this is
time.
not
I've
right
got
for
I've
you.
got a
Okay.
side hustle. I got something
Okay.
outside. I'm building it, but I'm still in my job and I got money coming in.
Okay. Commitment to what you're going to do is key. You need to be committed to this. If you decide, you can't be waffling. You can't be saying like, I might give this a shot, and then therefore you're giving yourself an out. you need to be committed to what it is you're going to do next. So that means being obsessed with it. Okay. And this is okay. You're creating an obsession around something you're passionate about. So make sure that you understand that to do this, to go from employee to entrepreneur, you better be obsessed, is what I think. Next, I would say you need to plan for an exit. In your mind, you can put up with all that BS in the office when you know that your end date is 6 months, 9 months from now, whatever you said in your mind. Don't tell anybody just yet because you don't want to lose your job just yet. But you're thinking months out, slash maybe even a year out, and saying, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start building all these things. I know I need to do all these things to whatever program that you offer is exactly perfect. You're doing all these things to build your business. Start doing it now. You don't need to wait to actually leave your job and leave a paycheck to start building, like planting the seeds, building your database, building your marketing material, building your business. So in the employee stage, do that. And you can also start investing a little bit of your salary towards that as well. Maybe honestly, maybe something like you go away one time less in the year. Maybe you go on a few less dinners per month because you're working on your business.
Mm.
So you can be investing, you can redirect some of those funds towards whatever it is you want to do. Designer to create logos or whatever, spend time creating a YouTube podcast series, things like that. You don't need to do all that stuff later on. You could start building this now. But this all comes with, I guess this all kind of relates back to the first point, which is being obsessed. You got to be obsessed with this whole thing.
Awesome.
No, like unapologetically obsessed with whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's great. So that's my
Okay.
first grouping. My second one is no longer have a job, but not quite at the incorporated. I'm making
Yep.
a good amount of
Yep.
money in this corporation. I'm in
Yep.
that middle phase.
So you are going to start burning through some of the savings that you've just compiled. So you've got to be strategic about this. We had this thing back in the real estate world where we're talking about red light, green light. It's like you're going to spend money. Okay, you're going to spend green light is you're going to spend money. If this thing returns on in your investment, you'll spend. If it doesn't, you got to put the pause on spending that kind of stuff. I know we all want to have 15 different AI subscriptions for different reasons because that video is really cool and that image is pretty rad. And no, if you can't relate that thing back to some type of ROI, it doesn't need to be direct, but you know that it's bringing in business. I would say be careful on your spend. This has to sustain you for a while. Make sure that you are not just spending without caution. You got to make sure that you're holding it accountable. Hold your spend accountable. Next thing is you better get comfortable communicating what it is you do now. It takes a lot of time. And maybe it's easier now through AI and you can have a chat partner to go through this. But positioning what it is you do is going to give you so much more confidence to delivering the thing that you actually do with
Right.
that client. And this whole game is about confidence. Entrepreneurship is all about confidence. How much you believe in yourself is how much that person's going to believe in you to do what it is that you said you would do. And that little spot of 15 seconds, 10 seconds of quickly identifying what it is you do is going to make all the difference in the world in your confidence.
Amazing. Thank you.
And then last part, get comfortable. Like you got to start being out there. Unless you got a sales team, you have to figure out how you got to get over your nerves. You got to get out there and start talking to people and telling them that this is what you do and you're looking for business. Find opportunities.
Yeah, open to business. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, and then the last group, these people who
Last group.
you're in a corporation, you've got a good income coming
Okay.
in, you
So
might
talk
even
about the wealth
have
thing.
like
Yeah.
you're on track for that 100,000, 200,000, $300,000. You maybe you're not quite there, but you're really close. You can see it.
Yeah. So now you can start planning for like sustainability and wealth and beyond the business. There are a lot of people that start businesses to exit businesses.
Yes.
I'm suggesting that in this audience, you're probably not doing it with that in mind. So you're not doing this for an exit, but you need to understand that what you're doing, what you've done, all the risk you took in steps in phase one and phase two, you did it so that there is an end to phase three as well. That you can walk away from your business and you can get paid from the business that you spent all this effort on. So start thinking about long term and the foundation we talked about before, which was basically a big part of that concept we talked about, my money mansion idea
Yes.
in the Get Wealth Up. So that's long term thinking about that. But you're not there yet. Like I want you to start thinking, how do you scale this bad boy up? Like now you figure if you got to this point where you are incorporated, you're bringing in a few hundred grand a year, not you're onto something. Clearly, the market is telling you that you are creating value. And in exchange for that value, you're being compensated. I tell my kids all the time, you will in life, you will be directly rewarded in compensation for the amount of value you create. This is really freaking simple.
Yeah.
The bigger the problem you solve, the more money the universe is going to find to give to you. It's as simple as that. The more
Yeah.
people you can help, the bigger the rewards. So go and start solving more problems. How do you do that? Scale. Somehow you got to turn what you've built and you were delivering it on your own. Now you got to introduce scale. What can you leverage off? How can you bring people into your business to scale this thing up?
Right.
So scale is a big one. And now that's when you hockey stick results. You get bigger results because you're helping far more people than just the one person that you are.
Absolutely.
And I would say start number three, start bringing in pros. Don't think because you're amazing at baking pies that you know everything about everything.
Right.
You might need someone on the marketing side, someone on the legal side. Start bringing in pros and advisors. There's a lot of people who know what questions to ask you rather than putting it on you to somehow by chance come across somebody who asked a question and you go on a GPT and ask that question and think that you figured it all out. You haven't figured it out. It's really humbling for people like me is like when I've gone through this to know that I don't have it all figured out
Yeah.
and I do need help.
Totally
Yeah.
agree.
Even doing entrepreneur, like from employee to entrepreneur, you don't know what you're doing. Anita knows how to do this. So there's an example that right there of you need the right people in your life to really scale up. And so bringing in the pros is key to all that happening.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. And this product that is completely available, is that available at any stage of these three?
So back to the scale point, scale increases the further you go down that list. Just like in the business, the bigger the volume, the better the results. So when you have access to stage three and there's
Mhm.
bigger numbers there, you will get bigger numbers out of it.
Right.
So if you're working at it from that angle, it's available whenever you want. It's available to my kids who don't even have jobs
Right.
and they have theirs. But what I'm saying for the entrepreneur, yeah, it's just I want you to focus first things foremost. I want you to build a business, make this business viable, create value, go out there, try and sell me on whatever it is you're selling. And then we can start building your business or building your wealth through your business.
That's amazing. Those are such helpful steps because we do have people from all different stages, and then you get stuck in the employee world rather than thinking about the entrepreneur and the wealth goal. Donnie, thank you so much. Your information will be in the notes section of this. And I know you are open to chat with anybody, especially those people that are in that corporation space where they're like, okay, I've built up a nest egg and now I want to be wealthy. I don't want to just have it sitting
Indeed.
in a savings account.
Indeed. Entrepreneurs are my people.
I know
Yes.
they are.
My tribe.
Absolutely. Connect with Donnie, get his book. Please just go and get his book. It will change your mindset on money. Money Mansion is an amazing concept, and it's such a great way of rejigging your brain from thinking like an employee and a direct deposit that comes into your account that creates stability and consistency. But it also is handcuffs. It's one of the reasons people
Yep.
don't go down this entrepreneurial venture is we feel so fearful. And this book is really excellent. I literally read it in a day. It was an excellent book. I really recommend it. Please read it. Start working on your own mindset and thinking differently so that you now understand this path that we've talked about. Watch this podcast again so you can see and understand that there is a path for you for freedom, for wealth freedom into the future. Donnie, thank you so much for
Thank you, Anita.
sharing your
Everyone
wisdom.
else, go get wealthed up, go build your business, go crush it. Thank you, Anita, for having me on.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody, and catch the next podcast. We have great speakers and great wisdom just for you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, you were inspired just as I was by our amazing guest. Please subscribe because every week we will be interviewing someone else who's made that transition from employee to entrepreneur. In the comments, please share the one nugget that you heard that will change your business as well.